He laughed at the waitress in front of the richest men in the city, thinking she would just bow her head and stay silent. But when she stood up and spoke, the entire room stopped breathing, and he realized too late he'd mocked the wrong person. The private dining hall of the Saint. Regis Hotel glittered under crystal chandeliers as Richard Kane, billionaire investor and notorious egotist, hosted a dinner for the city's most powerful VIPs. CEOs, politicians, media moguls, everyone who mattered was there. At the far side of the room, Anna Brooks, 26, moved between tables with a notepad and quiet grace, wearing the black and white uniform of the waitstaff. She refilled glasses. She delivered meals. She smiled politely, even when guests barely noticed her, and to Richard Kane, she was invisible. Halfway through the evening, as laughter and wine flowed too freely, Richard decided the night needed a little fun. He tapped his glass sharply. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice booming, "let's have a toast to those who serve." Some guests chuckled awkwardly. Richard waved his hand toward Anna, who happened to be placing a plate nearby. "Here's a real success story for you. Proof that if you dream small enough, you too can spend your life fetching breadsticks." The room burst into laughter. Loud, careless, cruel. Anna froze, her hands trembling slightly. She lowered the plate carefully, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. Richard leaned back, smirking, soaking in the applause for his cheap joke. But then, Anna slowly straightened. Her eyes, clear, fierce, unshaken, locked onto his. She set down her tray, wiped her hands on a napkin, and stepped forward. "May I say something, sir?" she asked, her voice even. Richard, amused, waved grandly. "By all means, enlighten us." And that's when the night flipped, because the quiet waitress who everyone thought would shrink away was about to own the entire room, and what she said next would leave billionaires, moguls, and power brokers speechless. Anna took one steady breath. She didn't look down. She didn't tremble. She met every single gaze in that glittering room head-on. "Thank you, Mr. Kane," she began, voice clear and unwavering. "You're right about one thing. I do serve, and I'm proud of it." Murmurs flickered through the crowd. Richard smirked, expecting her to stumble. She didn't. "But what you don't know," she continued, "is that this job? It's not the full story. It's the choice I made. To pay for my education without debt, to take care of my mother through her chemo, and to learn what real strength looks like. When no one hands you a shortcut." Several guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Anna took a step closer to the center of the room. "You call this dreaming small?" she said, her voice gaining power. "This job helped me graduate top of my class at Columbia. It funded my startup, one that's now in talks for national expansion." She pulled something from her apron pocket, a small business card, and placed it carefully on the nearest VIP's table. "Brooks Consulting Group," she read, "helping corporations build cultures based on respect, not arrogance." Silence slammed into the room. The CEO nearest to her, one of the biggest investors in tech mergers, picked up her card and read it twice, brows raised. Another guest, a state senator, cleared his throat and leaned forward, visibly intrigued. Even the reporters discreetly present at the dinner started typing notes furiously. Anna turned back to Richard. "So, no, Mr. Kane, I didn't dream small. I dreamed louder than you ever could." The energy in the room shifted completely. The laughter had died. The smug smiles disappeared. And in their place, respect, admiration, regret. Richard Kane, billionaire titan of industry, sat back in his chair, speechless for the first time all night. And as Anna gathered her tray and turned to leave, guests didn't just watch her go. They stood up. First one, then another. until half the room was on their feet, applauding the woman who reminded them all, true power doesn't wear a $1 million suit. It walks quietly, it serves humbly, and it speaks when the world least expects it. The sound of clapping grew louder, rolling through the grand dining hall like a rising tide. Anna didn't expect it. She hadn't spoken to win anyone's approval. But as she turned toward the exit, dozens of powerful men and women rose to their feet, not to humor her, not out of guilt, but because they recognized something rare: courage, grace, authenticity, the very things money could never buy. Richard Kane sat frozen, his fingers tapping nervously on his glass. The smugness he wore like armor now looked brittle, almost laughable under the weight of the silence that had turned against him. A few VIPs he considered close allies slipped away from his table, drifting toward Anna, eager to shake her hand, grab a business card, exchange a few words before she disappeared back into the world she was clearly destined to lead. One of them, a venture capitalist worth billions, caught up to Anna at the door. "I'll be in touch," he said, slipping her card into his jacket. "The way you carry yourself? That's exactly the leadership we need." Anna nodded politely, never once letting triumph cross her face. This wasn't about proving Richard wrong. It was about standing for something real. For every invisible worker who'd ever been mocked. For every dreamer told to stay small. And without a single ounce of anger or vengeance, Anna had flipped the power dynamic in the room and left it standing on truth. Back inside, Richard tried to recover, raising his glass and forcing a chuckle. "Well, she's got spirit, I'll give her that." But the faces looking back at him were no longer laughing. No nods, no indulgent smiles. Only polite silence. And Richard Kane, master of rooms, realized something that shook him deeper than Anna's words. The room no longer belonged to him. It belonged to the girl in the apron who had spoken without fear, and reminded them all what real worth looked like. As Anna walked out of the ballroom and into the cool evening air, she didn't need cameras flashing or headlines chasing her. She had already won where it mattered most. Inside that glittering hall, where fortunes were built and egos were fed, she had shifted the entire atmosphere without raising her voice, without bitterness, without revenge, just truth, just dignity. In the days that followed, word of what happened at the St. Regis spread faster than any press release could. Articles flooded business magazines. Waitress turns tables on Billionaire, a masterclass in grace under fire. Brooks Consulting, the startup redefining corporate leadership. Major companies reached out to Anna, requesting meetings, offering investments, eager to be associated with a name that now stood for something genuine in a world gasping for it. Anna didn't let it change her. She stayed grounded, focused. She built Brooks Consulting Group with one mission at its heart. Success isn't measured by who you step over, it's measured by who you lift up. And slowly, she began helping companies transform their cultures, turning places built on arrogance into spaces rooted in respect. As for Richard Kane, his reputation took a hit. Deals quietly fell apart. Potential partners who once clung to his coattails now remembered the night he mocked someone better than him, and got exposed without a single insult thrown back. He wasn't ruined, but he was diminished. And he knew it. In the lobby of Brooks Consulting today, a simple framed photo hangs. Not of Anna in a ball gown, not of champagne or handshakes, just a picture of a black and white apron folded neatly over a chair. The plaque beneath it reads, "Strength isn't loud. Dignity isn't dressed up. Real power stands up when others sit down." Because Anna Brooks didn't need a ballroom to conquer the world. She just needed one moment, and the courage to speak when it mattered most.